When Proline released its twin I-beam kit for the Axial SCX-10-2, I don't think anybody was ready for that. Nobody saw that coming. A few people in the past on the internet have made twin I-beam RC pre-runners, and some people have done a really good job. It inspired me to try and make one myself, and I will say that mine did not turn out near as good as some of theirs. It was pretty sloppy, the truck barely drove, and it just was not going to work. So when Proline made this kit, I was excited. I jumped on it. I pre-ordered one to make sure I got it and spent the winter building it when I had the time. I really hope that Proline takes this seriously and maybe will one day even release a pre-runner kit, like a full truck. You know, they've had some RC cars in the past, some RTR monster trucks and things like that. I really hope that they see that they've got something here and make a kit for us to buy so that RC pre-runners, you know, become more popular and become a thing. I've also got with me a Kyosho Outlaw Rampage Pro, and this is a new truck to me as well. I just finished building it up, and I'm really excited to see how this one goes. This video is basically going to be how does a twin I-beam truck compare to an IFS truck. So this is my Axial SCX-10-2. Like I said, it's a full cage truck that I built. To stainless steel. The only thing that's left that's SCX-10-2 is the front half of the truck right here. Everything else is full cage. I would take the body off and show you, but like any RC trophy truck pre-runner worth its salt, its body's held on is by a ridiculous number of screws, and it would take me half the day to take it off. But it's got a brushless motor. I had a brushed motor in it before and it was way too slow and I didn't like it, so I put a brushless motor in it. It's got Proline XT Power Stroke rear shocks for the Axial Yeti. They're big, they hold a lot of oil. The front, I've got 100mm Axial shocks with some extra shocks for extra oil in there. And I really like the way this truck handles now with the Proline twin I-beam setup. Like I said, it's way tighter. There's barely any slop there, and it just works well. The steering is locked in. Making a homemade twin I-beam swing set steering is complicated. I just went with pictures on the internet and winged it, and I probably should have tried harder. This is my Kyosho Outlaw Rampage Pro. I bought the 70% built kit, and you just basically build the rest. Add a motor and an ESC and a radio and you're good to go. Okay, so this is a motor on axle truck, and I know people complain about that and don't think it's cool, but you know what? Just from like driving this thing around in my driveway, it works well. I've watched videos of this thing being thrashed at skate parks and driven over bumps, and I think it looks cool. I think this truck should get more credit than it deserves. This is the first time that I've had this truck out in actual setting, so we'll see how it goes. Before I just drove around my parking lot at my house, and it was pretty good. I've got a Traxxas 550 12-turn motor and a Hobbywing 1060 ESC, and like this is like a dead simple setup that anybody can do. You can't mess this up. It's really just kind of plug and play, and I was really happy with the speed out of it. I don't know if you can see, but I've got the blue sticky tack mod around the motor to seal it up. This is just basically to keep any kind of sand and rocks and grit out of the motor, because if you read up on these trucks, there is complaints about the motor and the transmission getting trashed from stuff getting in there. You can use anything. I use blue sticky tack. You can use chewing gum. You can use silicone. I would recommend using your own chewing gum, but you know, like I said, seal it up, nothing gets in there, and you're good to go.
Kyosho is really well known for their shocks. Their Velvet Series shocks are some of the best from what I understand, and the shocks that are on the Kyosho Outlaw Rampage Pro, the metal ones, they seem to be really nice. They're smooth, they have a large oil capacity, and they soak up bumps really well. In this truck, I'm running a 13 kg steering servo, and the steering feels really good on this truck. It goes where you point it, it doesn't feel like it wants to wander, there's no slop in it. And the front suspension has a sway bar, which helps keep it planted and tracking in the right direction. Through these little sand whoops that I made, the truck tracks pretty well. The suspension soaks it up pretty decently. It's not going to float big bumps like a UDR or a Baja Ray, but this truck does a really good job with what it's got. The suspension cycles nicely, the wheels tuck up into the wheel wells, and it doesn't get too unsettled, but it does bounce around a little bit. Where the Kyosho Outlaw Rampage Pro really shines is when you air it out. This truck jumps really well. It flies nice and level, it soaks up the landing nicely, the wheels stuff up into the wheel wells, the rear suspension's got decent travel, and the truck just flies nicely. Another thing that I love about this truck is the body. I think Kyosho did a great job on it, and it looks super cool and vintage. Bouncing through the right terrain, it looks like a vintage off-road desert racer. It's not going to do huge bumps and jumps like a trophy truck, but as far as a two-wheel drive Prerunner is concerned, I think it's spot on. Being a two-wheel drive truck, it loves to kick up rooster tails and fishtail all day long. Lots of throttle and wheel spin, and this thing will put a big smile on your face. So I had planned to run this truck brushless, but for whatever reason I just couldn't get the brushless motor to work properly. It was spinning in the wrong direction, and I don't have a programming card right now to fix it. So I went back to my brush setup, and I'm kind of glad I did. On pavement, there's more than enough power to lift the front wheels and catwalk this thing. And it's just, I think it's the right amount of speed for this truck. It's not going to overpower it and make it handle badly. Through these sand whoops, the front suspension of the Proline twin I-beam kit does really well. The suspension cycles nicely up and down and soaks up the bumps. The rear suspension is custom made, so I can't really say much about the Proline kit, but it does the job of keeping the truck planted and moving forward. Steering. Let's talk about steering. If you want to build a twin I-beam truck and want to figure out swing set steering for yourself, I'm going to say stop right now and just buy the Proline kit. This steering is tight. It works well. When I built my own steering, the truck wandered around. It would not drive straight, and I gave up on this thing just about. And I'm so happy that Proline made this kit, because now this truck drives awesome. Airing this truck out, it works pretty well. As you can see, there's probably maybe a little bit of balancing issues. It wants to drop to the right and land front end high sometimes. But the twin I-beam suspension and my trailing arm rear suspension soak up the big landing, and the truck just settles down nicely and keeps going. Long travel twin I-beam suspension came about because it was a quick and relatively affordable way to get long travel front suspension. And going fast in a straight line over big bumps is what they do really well. The I-beams travel up and down, the shocks soak up the bumps, and you could do some fast lines through some rough terrain with a pretty basic truck with these. Who doesn't love a good realistic looking rollover with a desert Prerunner truck? One of my favorite things about the I-beam truck is that when you air it out and the front suspension can drop away and go to its full droop. I love the negative camber of the front wheels and just seeing the truck fly through the air with all of its suspension hanging down. I really hope that Proline knows that they have something cool here and would consider making a full kit, a Prerunner truck with this thing, with the twin I-beam front suspension, trailing arm rear suspension, and I really hope that they would do it with a solid axle open diff. It could have a cage, it doesn't have to have a cage. They've already got the Ranger body for it with the fender flares that make this thing look like the desert trucks you see running all over California. Proline, please, if you ever listen to this, make this kit. People would buy it. You would have a license to print money. Finally, one of the cool things about Prerunners and trophy trucks, when you see them cornering hard, that inside front wheel picks up off the ground and they're three-wheeling a little bit. I think it looks awesome. Thanks for watching.